Hi everyone! In this Research Like a Pro with DNA video, in our question and answer series, we have a great question from one of our study group members. And in this excerpt from Office Hours, Diana talks about how to record multiple relationships with DNA matches in your notes, and specifically within the notes of the DNA testing companies where you find the match. So we'll go over how to do that and also kind of what it looks like in a diagram to have multiple relationships with the DNA match and kind of considerations for that. So hopefully this is a helpful video for you, especially for those of you with multiple relationships in your family with your DNA matches and trying to parse those out with your DNA analysis.
All right, so now to another question. And this one is about pedigree collapse and how to deal with that in your recording. So the question, I'm planning to tackle a maternal line chock full of common ancestral and other relationships. So looks like there's maybe some pedigree collapse. And we've done quite a bit of work in trying to write a blog post on Family Locket to help you understand the difference. Often we see something in our family tree and we think it's pedigree collapse where it's more multiple relationships. So you'll want to really check out those blog posts and compare your tree to see which one you've got going on. And you can have both. But sometimes we think it's this and it's really just multiple relationships. So, so I was wondering about using the word other abbreviated as OTR or a phrase other common ancestor abbreviated as OCA in the limited online notes field. So we've been talking about notes on ancestry and what do you do if you have got two or more ways you connect to a person? So I would just say, and I'll show you an example in a minute of multiple relationships and how I did a note, but you can put quite a bit of information in the notes on the websites. So write out whatever you want to do. And if you do want to use an abbreviation like this, as long as you know what you're talking about, that's the important thing. So then also, if you have some guidance on what uh, common ancestral relationships might be important to track, that might be helpful. Okay, so let's look at a couple things here in answer to this. So this is an example from our family about multiple relationships. These are actually double cousins, and I had sisters marry brothers, or actually a brother sister marry a brother and a sister. And so here's my line. And I have the Harris grandparents and I have the Frazier grandparents. Well, these cousins over here come down through this marriage of a Frazier and Harris also. So we are connected through two different sets of great great grandparents. So they therefore are my double cousins. Turns out that they are double third cousins, and we do share a bit more DNA than you would think with a third cousin because of inheriting from both sides of the family. So what do we do with that? Well, this is how I diagrammed it to show it. And Banyan DNA that I just showed you a slide for does let you diagram it. And I did diagram this within Banyan, and it will tell you if your numbers are statistically relevant, if they work. But how do you record this in a note? Well, what I did was for each one of those matches and more that I keep finding, I put in that they are a double second cousin, and then I have the match name. And then in this case, I'm not sure who the father is, but then, I have here's an example of my question marks where I think this is how it goes, and then where I pick up who I'm sure of and then the common ancestral couples. And notice there are two, they're both there. So this alerts me, this is right on my match page. Whenever I see this person, then I remember, okay, this is a Fraser and this is a Harris person. So it didn't really take a lot of extra room to write that out. I just used the double second cousin. Now, if it was a case of pedigree collapse, you could do the same thing. You could just write pedigree collapse. We share this set of grandparents, and whatever you want to write in there. So I think you'd have plenty of room in your notes to write that out. And as far as Airtable, you certainly could add a field. You can write as much as you want in the results fields of Airtable and put that information in. You could even add a second row. You could have a row for each relationship, the same person. And then, so if I wanted to put this into Airtable, I could have all of this going back to the Harris, and then I could do another row with the common ancestral couple of the Welches. So you just have to be creative sometimes. Okay, so I see for this note. I put this note in because I contacted this match and it was actually being, the administrator was a different person. And then the administrator said, my parents were Otto and Eunice Morgan. And then this was the date that the match was that I messaged them. So that was the date of the message that I put in there. And I probably could have been a little bit more clear. Message received on this date. Good question. Okay. All right. Any thoughts or questions on that?
Well, I was just going to say that I understood your note because I've seen that note before, and it's usually just you and I making notes on your DNA matches. So I guess as long
Yes.
as we can both understand each other's notations, we're all set.
Yeah, unless we've shared our DNA with someone, they're not going to see our notes. It's just us. And we can share. Oh, that's a good question. If we share at different levels, can they always see our notes? Or is there a level, I wonder, that we could share where somebody couldn't see our notes?
I'll check.
Yeah,
I want to know that too.
I hadn't thought about that because if we do have some information in here and we share, that maybe wouldn't be a good idea. We maybe would have to be more careful. Okay, so thanks. Everybody's saying viewers see notes, guest access sees notes. So with that in mind, just be careful who you share with and what you put in your notes.